Hey guys, my name is Big Tino and welcome back to From the Depths, and welcome very briefly to the creative mode, because I realized last time when I showed off the Planetar, our new big airship here, I didn't really show it in action. I mean, it was in the battle, but it was usually just kind of far away, and you didn't get to see any real specifics of it. So what I've done is I've put our Planetar here, right on the broadside of the lovely Crossbones ship. Uh, yeah, I can't see the cost of it, but I think this thing's like 250,000 points. We're gonna win pretty hard. This is an unfair fight. It's more that I just want to show off, or maybe not show off, but show you what the Planetar is like when it's fighting. So let me unpause this real quick, and you can see this this lovely thing in action. Usually, it starts off with the two particle cannons firing. And then you've just got this this barrage of the forward-facing weapons, and you can see that while this thing does have a good bit of backwards thrust, it's actually making a lot more use of just the recoil of these weapons to push it backwards. And so it's going to continue just being pushed backwards until it gets to a certain distance, and then its forward thrusters are going to kick on to kind of keep it stable, to keep it where it is. And I've done a little bit of tinkering on this since the last time. I'm still not super happy with the PID network in it. Just making it bob up and down. I feel like a lot of the times the bobbing up and down works really well. Like here, it's doing pretty much exactly what I want it to. And then sometimes it'll just go all the way down to the water, and I'm still not entirely sure what causes that. But I'll keep tinkering with it. But as you can see, it's got pretty thorough shielding, pretty thorough laser defense systems, although again, I would like to make the lasers a little bit stronger, just to be able to take out the larger munitions. But you can see this thing has not stopped firing the entire time, so while maybe its volley is not quite as impressive looking as the Kraglenorm's, I'm willing to bet that this thing's volley is actually better. At the very least, it's more reliable, more sustained damage, and it's a greater diversity of shell types. Like I said before, it's got heat shells and HESH shells and frag explosive shells. So it does some pretty good damage, and of course it's got torpedoes, it's got missiles, it's got just a really wide range of weapons. It's got those the rapid fire advanced cannons for faster enemies, things like that. And you can see its laser defense system is blowing up the enemy shells that are getting too close. The lovely blue beam there was our particle cannon. We've already gotten the crossbones down to 81%. So while I don't think this has quite the burst damage of the Kraglenorm, it certainly has the sustained damage that maybe the Kraglenorm lacks. And it's certainly much, much harder to kill than the Kraglenorm, just because it kind of keeps itself at or out of arm's reach, I guess, and has lots and lots of ways to defend itself. Whereas the Kraglenorm is, while it does have shields, it mostly just relies on being able to take punches and punch harder, which, while it works most of the time, it doesn't always work, and it's kind of an expensive repair job. But already we're sort of capsizing the crossbones here, and I don't believe we've actually taken any damage. So that's all I wanted to show. I wanted to show the thing, the Planetar in action by itself, because I don't feel that I did that last time. So let's get back into the campaign. And here we are back in action. We've got the Kraglenorm and the Planetar versus not a huge fleet from the White Flayers. It does have a Devourer and a Pandemonium, neither of which we have seen before. I think I remember the Devourer is a melee flyer, which makes sense because its altitude and its speed are both pretty high. So maybe we should probably focus on that first, because a melee flyer will absolutely wreck the Planetar. But I'm not super concerned about this fight. I think we should be able to get it done pretty easily. So let's dive in. As soon as we can. Alright. Let's pause it. Let's see what they've got. Okay, yep, that's the ship that I remember. This is the Devourer. This horrifying monstrosity is really cool, and it works like, well, like some of the other White Flayer ships we've seen before. It has this nose that points towards the enemy and just sort of thrusts towards them. So you can see just a giant mess of these ion thrusters on a big ball that points directly at the enemy and, you know, makes the ship fly towards them. So this is going to be priority target number 1 because that's terrifying. And what else? That's the guillotine. That was a cool ship. The Pandemonium is what I'm looking for, which I believe is actually this one. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's a missile gunboat. Shouldn't be too much of a threat, relatively speaking. Anyway, I've learned not to underestimate the White Flayer ships, especially these annoying little martyrs. This ship cannot cost more than like 3,000 points, and it's just the most devastating thing because it just swims up to us, explodes in nuclear fire, and then is repaired to explode again. Alright, let's kill these things. Now, hopefully our ships can get some good damage on the Devourer here before it eats the Kraglenorm. Looks like a couple good hits there. Our detection system having a little bit of a hard time judging where it's going to be because this thing's motions are very erratic, as you might expect, for a thing that is driven by a ball of thrust on its nose. Big explosion there, though. Looks like maybe a bit of internal damage. Yep, I'm seeing a couple explosions on the inside of this thing. Again, not sure that's going to help us in time, because this might be real bad. Whole lot of explosions there. I'm hoping we can kind of knock it away from us with all these detonations. Alright, looks like something exploded in the back of it, which is sending it flying forwards. That was lucky for us, because that was almost very bad for us. But it looks like it is sort of free-willying away. And its ball of thrust is having a hard time turning to face us. And it might actually be off. I'm not sure how much damage we've done to it. It's only down to 94%. I think, rather than fully incapacitating it, what we've done is we just sort of bunched it out of the way with explosions. Which, you know, works for me. Of course, now we're getting some good hits there, but I think I'm going to have... Well, the Kraglenorm will keep fighting that. I think I will have the Planetar fight the other ships, fight the Guillotine and such, although it looks like we have been rammed by something else. I did not even notice this thing has a pinwheel of death, which is just sort of slowly eating away at us. So maybe I'll have the Kraglenorm shoot the Pandemonium. That would be nice. The Pandemonium was actually very expensive at like 203,000, although it looks like the Martyr has just detonated on the side of its own ship, which I have no complaints about. No idea if any of my guns are actually going to be able to turn around and fire at this thing, by the way. It looks like this poor turret here is turning to try to fire at it and is just getting its barrel chopped off in the process. Although, maybe our barrel actually knocked it away. That would be nice. What I'm relying on here is that our grenade launchers will be able to hit this thing in the back and just sort of blow it up, and then we'll shrug it off. Big frame loss here as something explodes, or rather, as we have a big melee impact. Again, this game absolutely does not handle melee impacts very well. Collisions have always been just super laggy. So there's not a whole lot to do about that with the White Flayers because they are so melee-oriented. I don't think anybody else in this campaign really relies on melee like this. So hopefully we won't have these sorts of issues in the future. Looks like the Kraglenorm is down to 92%. Looks like the Planetar is down to about 97, although it's very low in the water. Once again, it's having a hard time staying. I think the issue that I've seen with the Planetar is that if it has to turn very sharply to aim at a target, then it loses altitude. And so far, I'm not sure why that is. I need to keep experimenting with it. I need to keep playing around with it to see, what's causing that exactly, because I just don't know. Hopefully, it won't go into the water, because if the Planetar goes into the water, well, it's not coming out again. There's just nothing to be done. There are not enough balloons in the world to lift that thing out of the water, and I don't have any ion thrusters or anything that can handle it. And man, we just cannot shake this pandemonium. Although something has just detonated and blown me up in the process. I honestly could not tell if that explosion was on the Pandemonium, on the Kraglenorm, or both. It did look like the Pandemonium lost a turret, but then it also looks like it has just sort of belly flopped on top of us. Thankfully, the front of the Kraglenorm seems to be operating just fine still, as it is firing still at the Devourer, which, again, totally fine with, because that is still the scariest ship in this fleet. I mostly just wish we could get rid of that Pandemonium so we can get our frames back. Because it really is those collisions that cause these frame issues. You can see the internal rotor blades of the Kraglenorm keeping it above water, even while this monstrosity is just, trying to mate with us. I can see why this thing's so expensive, though, because it seems to be almost entirely made out of heavy armor, which is going to make it kind of a tough nut to crack. Okay, wow, getting some massive, massive frame losses here. How are our ships doing? The Planetar's back up to 98%. Again, I don't like to go crazy with repair bots, but I do like to have enough to where it can sort of keep itself afloat. Looks like the Pandemonium and the Devourer are both nearly down, which is good. I suppose the Devourer is high above us, and I think the Devourer has lost enough of its movement capabilities to where it's just going to kind of float away. That's my guess, anyway. Because gravity is very light on Neater, and if a ship gets high enough up and has enough upward momentum, there's not really a whole lot stopping it from just really going out there. Again, I do apologize for the frame losses here. I may cut much of the rest of this fight just so we get back to some better frames fights. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, most of the lag has gone now that the Pandemonium is gone. The Devourer is trying really hard to take out the Planetar by giving us a little belly flop here, and I think it may just do that. Yep, I think it might. I had thought the Devourer was out of the fight, but once again, I have made the mistake of assuming that about a White Flayers melee ship, and then it's coming back to literally bite me in the ass. I guess literally bite me, not literally in the ass. I guess figuratively the ass of the ship, but you know. Alright, and since we've got more collisions, we are losing frames again. I'll be back when the frames are back. So, as it turned out, my game crashed. Pretty much as soon as that happened. So, where we are now is we're back in the same battle, but I turned the block count way down so that we just do sort of one-on-one fighting, which I don't like doing because my ships are bigger than theirs, and so one-on-one fighting gives me the obvious advantage. But just the composition of this fleet made it really laggy. Like even when I fought it again, it ground almost to a standstill. So right now what we're seeing is a duel between the Planetar and the Devourer. right before I started recording again, the Devourer had basically belly flopped on top of the Planetar, um, and did a whole lot of damage. But the Planetar, something exploded inside the Planetar, which caused it to go flying away from it and get a bit of range on it. And we were winning there, but now it looks like the Devourer has, well, started to devour us. So, I don't know, it's been a pretty even fight so far. They've just been dancing around. And if the Devourer can catch us in the right spot, then we'll be in pretty bad shape. Thankfully, I don't think that's the right spot to catch us in, because again, most of this is just armor, and it's really just kind of knocking us around. But if we can't get some range on it soon, we might be in trouble. Now, we're down to 97%. The Devourer is down to 71. But again, the Devourer does not need anything. The Devourer doesn't need any of this body here. All it needs is this little block of thrusters and this giant drill of death. So now the ship is trying to tilt down, and I think it's been damaged. I think the front bottom thrusters have been damaged because it tilted down way too much there. But it does look like it's stabilizing, thankfully. Although again, now see, that's the exact spot where I would not want to be hit by the Devourer, because that is our engine. And yep, it is drilling right into our engine now. That's a nasty detonation there. That's probably our entire engine power gone, which is gross. Yep, you can see our lovely engine in there. It looks like it's not entirely gone, but it is mostly gone. Now, I'll be curious to see whether this thing's RTGs can keep it in the air or not. I'm getting the feeling that no, it will not. Yep, we are down in the water. Oh man, that was rough. So we're actually only down to 91%. The Devourer is down to 70%, but I do believe it has won this fight. All we've got left to really hit it with, I guess our shells don't have to travel very far now, so we can keep shooting it. And we do, of course, have torpedoes. But we'll just have to see kind of how this goes. This is not the battle I was expecting. In fact, I was expecting this battle to be very quick, but because of some weird performance issues so far in this battle, it's taken me a long time, unfortunately. Yeah. That doesn't look good for our heroes. Oh, it looks like we did manage to take off the ball of thrusters there. Looks like the drill is gone. The Devourer is health below 80% and sinking, which is good for us, although again, well, we don't really have a means of getting out of the water. But that's not too bad. I will just, I'll bring the Kraglin Arm in. The Kraglin Arm will finish this off, and we'll get back to more reasonable fights. Well, alright, we are back, and now we are destroying a lovely coastal town, as we love to do. Although this time, the coastal town is a weird cult village thing. So let's take a look at what they've got while I am bombarding it. I'm probably not going to take the time to capture these buildings because honestly, at this point in the game, I have a pretty substantial income generation, so I'm not too worried about that. This thing is cool. What is this thing? This is the Ecclesia Montum. The religious mount, I assume. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. And of course, they, like all the other factions, have houses. Unlike all the other factions, their houses are spiky. Because who doesn't want to live in a glowing red house covered in spikes? Doesn't this just scream lovely, pleasant neighborhood? I mean, you would just bring a good casserole over to this place, right, and have a lovely Christmas dinner. What else have they got? Looks like just a tower. I was going to say a lighthouse, but it doesn't actually have a light on top. That we're blowing up, you know, as we do. Now this is looks like a church of some kind, a chapel. Fair warning, if your church is spiky, you might be the bad guys. What else? What else? Looks like more towers, and I'm guessing that this is the Bloodstone Obelisk. Very Night Vale. Is there anything actually inside here? Doesn't look like it. There's a mainframe. Lovely. So it is just a big hunk of red metal, which I'm okay with. It's nice and cool. And what is that a... Oh my god, it's a sacrificing pit. They have a proper, legitimate sacrificing pit. I think we may have damaged it a little bit, but it still has some rolling spikes in there. So, you know, if you're not sure what to do for this Christmas vacation, consider coming to the town of the Flayed God. Take a nice hike up the stairs, don't look down, continue walking forward, and that. Oh, I do love the attention to detail in the White Flayers. But yeah, I just wanted to show off this little coastal village. Lovely, peaceful, quaint, spiky. I'll finish blowing it up and we'll come. Alright, time for our last battle of the day. We've got our Kraglenorm and Planetar versus the Valkyrie, which we have not seen yet. A Ripper, a Guillotine, and a Guillotine. Now, my plan for next episode is we'll be fighting the Lightning Hoods. So off camera, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of cut my way down through towards the Lightning Hoods. The next episode, we'll start by fighting them, because I feel like at this point, we've fought the White Flayers pretty extensively, possibly for longer than any of the other factions we fought so far, or either of the other factions we fought so far, I should say. So I'd like to go ahead and move on from them. So let's get our last battle against the White Flayers in, and we'll call it a day. The lovely battle loading. Battle begins. There we go. Very bright water. Alright, here I am. Let's see. Whatever this is, it is already kind of blowing up. I assume this is the Valkyrie. Yep. It looks like it is a water skimmer, maybe a hovercraft? Kind of hard to tell the difference with the White Flayers. But it looks like it is just a giant battering ram that is flying at me really, really quickly. So let's get everybody to focus on the Valkyrie. And this lovely blue, tranquil water. Ooh, lots of shells just raking across the Valkyrie. Although it did turn, which caused that last volley to miss a bit there. But that one, gonna catch it a bit. That one's right on the nose. So we are hammering away at this thing, dealing quite a lot of damage, but as with all White Flayer ships, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that they have momentum, and that momentum is going to keep carrying them forwards. Hopefully we can at least knock this thing off course a little bit with some good explosions. Couple of good hits there. Looks like it did miss us. We may have damaged its turning because I don't think we knocked it off course there. But that is the perfect place to shoot it. It looks like it's more designed to take fire from the front where it's covered in shields and rams, and from the sides, maybe much like the Planetar, it's just not quite as well armored. So we're going to not make that mistake of moving on to another target and keep hammering it until it goes away, or until something more threatening shows up. But it looks like the other ships that are fighting us here are all shooting ships, and shooting ships I can handle. It's the melee ships that get me. Of course, that's not to say that any White Flayer ship can't be a melee ship if it wants to be. They're all pretty much covered in rams and spikes and stuff like that. But I think those at least prefer to be out and swimming around and shooting at us rather than in melee. Looks like the Valkyrie's only at an 89%. This is a tough craft because we absolutely hammered the thing. And it looks like our Planetar is having a little bit of a hard time turning. I don't want it to go into the water, so I'm going to have it fight something that's not moving quite so quickly. Before the next episode, I will be tinkering more with the Planetar so that it doesn't do this thing where it dips really low to the water when it has to turn sharply. I have a few ideas as to what might be causing that, but it's really just going to require me to sit down, tinker with it for a while, and so far I haven't had all the time in the world to do that. Yeah, it's getting entirely too low to the water, and that makes me nervous. Let's see how we're doing against the Valkyrie. Down to 88%. Kraglenorm is just at 98%. It looks like most of the fire is being directed on the Kraglenorm, although these two ships over here seem to be targeting our lovely Planetar, which I'm not too concerned about, but they are shooting us in the side, and as we recall from when the Devourer hit us, that's our engine. Through about 2 layers of metal armor and 1 layer of heavy armor, our engine is right there. Of course, we also have shields and smoke dispensers there, so we're not entirely defenseless, but it's not the place where we want to get shot if we can help it. Uh-oh. We're being lunged forward. I think the Planetar may have lost something important, or at least something explosive. Now, I don't think that's its engine. I do have a couple of small ammo caches in the back that can be detonated without losing much to the ship. But that does send the ship rocketing forward like that, which is a little scary, but I don't think we're at risk of really losing it. Yep, that just costed about 3% health, and sort of shoved it away from the enemy, so no big complaints there. Have we finally stopped the Valkyrie? It looks like it is at least slowing down in the face of our barrage. Looks like we have taken some damage to our weapons here, but not anything too extensive. Our main cannons are still just hammering away at the Valkyrie. I am really impressed at how much damage this thing can take. I think it really is like the Planetar, where the front maybe third of the ship is just armor. And so you can hammer away at it and just not do all that much to it. I am very glad that I do have some turreted weapons on the Planetar, because otherwise, if things get around it, which they often do, it would just be useless. Whereas if I made all of the weapons forward facing, I could make them a lot stronger, but then if and when things circled around it, we'd kind of be screwed. So I think it's a pretty good trade-off. Especially since it still has the 2 really big side cannons and the 2 particle cannons to hit forward-facing targets really hard. Looks like the Valkyrie has come in to give us a hug, although it doesn't look like it had a ton of speed to hit us, because I don't think it did too much damage there. And it doesn't have any spinning rams, and speed is what really makes rams powerful. You can see this is doing a bit of damage to our armor, but it's nowhere near to the extent of something like the Devourer, which has spinning rams and things like that. It has changed targets, it looks like. I can't tell if that's because the Valkyrie is dying or if it just can't hit something so close to it. Looks like whatever that is out there, it is exploding. Which is good. Explosions on the enemy are a good thing. The Planetar has moved to focus on this guillotine. Couple of particle cannon hits there, and now we might finally be facing it enough to hit it with our main cannons, although it is going to get directly below us very soon, which will cause our Planetar to have to spin all the way around, because fighting things directly underneath it is not what the Planetar does best. And I think another problem that this has is if it tilts too far downwards to face the enemy, then its recoil actually starts to cause it to tilt even further downwards, which could be bad, because if it tries to move then, if it tries to use its regular thrusters, it's just going to plummet straight into the water. Although, it is nice having a lovely close-range bead on an enemy like that. I think we may have just detonated that thing's AI, because its AI is dead, its weapons are turned off. So now the Planetar will turn and focus at someone else. We still have not quite finished off the Valkyrie here, and we seem to be at an impasse. Doesn't look like it's damaging us that much anymore, it's just kind of stuck inside us, and our grenade launchers are sort of hammering away at the side of it. Our lovely Planetar has turned to fire at the other guillotine, which seems like it's going pretty well. Again, we're so low to the water, we may actually go into the water here. Because as it turns, it goes down, and I think that's not necessarily a balancing issue, because this thing is very well balanced, and when it's out of combat, it doesn't move at all. It stays at 200 meters in the air and does not move beyond that. I think the problems may lie purely in the fact that this thing tilts its nose down to face the enemy. I think that's all it is. I think that screws up its balance. Even though it's cool, I think it makes it very difficult for it to turn without going down. So I'll tinker with that. Maybe I don't want to completely take away the nose dipping to face the enemy, because one, it's cool, and two, it gives all the weapons the chance to fire, the top and the bottom weapons. But if it's going to make the ship plummet into the water and there's nothing I can do about it, then I might just have to remove that feature, which would be sad. Still lots of explosions going on here on the Valkyrie. The Kraglenorm is resting comfortably at 96% health. And I'm pretty sure we can see what the 4% it's missing is. That would be directly underneath where the Valkyrie is. Again, kudos to whoever designed the Valkyrie. This is such a sturdy design. And it hasn't done that much damage to us, simply because I think our opening volley sort of pushed it off course, and so it didn't get the chance to ram us right off the bat. But that if it had, there wouldn't be a whole lot we could do about it, because it's so sturdy. And it's just taking a ton of hits. Although we do have some torpedoes from the Planetar coming in to hit it from below, which is nice. Little bit of frame loss there from the collision, but nothing too bad. Oh, I am looking forward to moving on from the White Flayers, though, just so I can get rid of all these collision issues. Because, you know, I could have a battle twice this size with an enemy that doesn't use melee ramming vehicles and have, you know, twice as many frames, just because the collisions don't have to be calculated. But I'll stop complaining about that. I do think melee is a really cool thing in this game. I love how it's an option. I love how there's a faction dedicated to it. I mostly just want my frames back. But, alright, it looks like we are wrapping this battle up. Just these two crippled ships left, so I'm going to go ahead and call the episode here. Next time, we will start fighting the Lightning Hoods. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.